Alright, so in the previous lecture, we imported our ml100k/u.user file. We separated the data out and we finally created our data frame. So all that's good. Now let's go ahead and talk about some functions that we can use in our pandas module with this data frame. First of all, we talked about users.head, and that returned us the first 5 lines of our data frame, and that was fantastic. Now the next thing I want to talk about is a tail. So if you're one step ahead of me, you probably have understood that the user.tail function returns me the last five lines of our data frame. And one more neat feature here is that you can also do is specify how many lines of code you want. So if I only want the last 3 lines, I can do users.tail.3. If I want the first 2 lines, I can do maybe users.head2. Does that work? Yes, it does. So this head and tail is useful when you want to sneak peek at your data, but you don't want the whole thing to be printed. Okay, so that's head and that's tail. Now, if you remember in the beginning of the section, I talked about how you can also do slicing. So let's go ahead and discuss how that works. For example, if I want the 10th guy to maybe the 13th guy, okay, not the 13th, 13 is an unlucky number. Let's do 14. Just like in arrays, so when you talked about the concept of slicing, it's the exact same thing here. What you can do is you can say users, again, it's 10 to 14, so we're going to do 10 to 15. And we'll get 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay? So taking a look at this data, index-wise, we got it correct. However, user ID-wise, we got it 11 to 15. That's something you can play around with, I think. Yeah. Wait, so, yeah, because ours starts at 0, you'd have to do one more, so it would be users 9 to 14, and that would return us the proper data. So over here, user ID 10 to 14. It's a little bit confusing because they start at 1 and the indexation in pandas starts at 0. But anyways, that's slicing for you. Again, there's many different things you can do. You can do maybe 5 to, or let's do 900 to everything. Does that work? Yeah. 900 everything prints us everything that's from 900 and above, so that's going to give us 44 rows of data. And then just like we talked about arrays, going back to that, it's the exact same concept. So you can do whatever slicing we talked about in arrays. You can do users 3, and that's only going to give you the first 3. You can do users, I don't know, -2. What does -2 give you? It gives us everything except the last 2 rows. Okay, so that's pretty good. As you can see, it cut the data over here because, hey, who's going to go through all of that lines? Anyways, it saved ourselves some time. So awesome job. In this lecture, we learned about slicing. We learned about the head and the tail. Again, you're probably noticing I'm cutting these lectures a bit short. The reason is pandas does get a bit confusing as we go later on. So I'm just, making these lectures nice and simple so that you can understand. In the next lecture, let's go ahead and go back to that Boolean stuff we talked about with the series. So that Boolean indexing, stuff like that.